Hi, my name is Dr. Christy Randazzo, and I am the professor for your section of Religion 101, Understanding Religion, for this semester, this half semester. Um, and if you haven't had a chance to meet with me, then I will give you a overview of what I usually talk about during our meetings in this video. Okay, it's going to be about 15 minutes just to give you an overview of the main elements that the class involves, and also help explain both the reasons for the assignments and what I'm looking for out of the assignments, for what I'm looking for you to bring to the assignments themselves. But first, I want to say that the course is built around the main question of religious studies, which is effectively, what is religion itself? This is a question that is debated any number of different ways in the field of religious studies, based around issues of basically what we are looking at for this semester, questions of ritual and myth and geography and belief and what have you. All these different elements that are involved in, the idea of a human need for a religious framework. Now, the problem with coming up with a definition of religion, again, is that it's huge, but basically, one that we can work with is that religion is that which gives meaning, purpose, and structure to human life, and gives it a sense of a community around which it can gather, and a sense of serving something greater than the individual, or even greater than the community itself. And that could be questions, like, it could be the idea of, the cosmic order in Buddhism. It could be, a divine figure like Allah or the Holy Spirit, Jesus, what have you, Krishna. But it could also be things like the nation itself. So nationalism is itself religious, because it gives people a sense of meaning, purpose, and structure, and gives them a sense of a community, a gathered community, a reason to be in a community. And it also connects to something greater than itself, which would be the concept of the nation in and of itself, not just sort of the people, individual people in the nation, but the nation as an idea, as a concept itself, which one is in service to, one's willing to die for, one's willing to sort of do all kinds of things for. So when we think of religion, we're thinking of sort of a structure of meaning, purpose, and belief that gives communities a sense of unity, and gives a sense of a connection to something greater than oneself, that allows one to think about ideas of service and heroism and what have you, sort of these broader ideas, because they're serving not just ourselves but everyone. Now, what you're going to be doing in the class, what you have done so far in each of the modules, in 10 of them, is you're going to look at what specific people have thought about the big questions in religion that I've talked about. Again, so we're not just looking at what the concept of religious geography is. We're looking at specifically one thinker's vision of that. We're not just looking at ritual, but we're looking at what Catherine Bell has to say about ritual specifically. Same thing for myth with Wendy Doniger. We're not just looking for religious sort of a religious approach to politics, but specifically what Saba Mahmood has to say about religion and politics. So we're trying to find, not just sort of understand these broader themes that are present in religion, but specifically how certain thinkers engage with that. So when you're reading the modules, one reason why you have to listen to the videos and do the notes and look at both the the reader and the textbook, is that what I'm looking for you to do is to be able to understand fundamentally what are the tools that each of these groups, or each of these thinkers, is applying to this question of whatever it is, ritual, myth, belief, what have you. So we're not just looking again at a broader field, but specifically what each person themselves have thought about that. Now, each of these thinkers has a particular approach, and within that approach is the idea of certain resources that one can use, certain tools. So Wendy Doniger is a perfect example. She presents this idea of thinking about myth in this sort of three lens idea. building from the individual person up to the larger society and sort of culture in and of itself. That's a tool that one can use to interpret myth, and it's a tool that's specific to Wendy Doniger. Now, it's useful, particularly when one's looking at sort of comparative mythologies, trying to understand the mythology of, say, the Christian biblical text versus the mythology of Greek ideas versus the mythology present in Hindu scripture. If we think of mythology as just the story that is fundamental to a community and speaks about the community to itself and its values. So what I'm going to look for you to do is, with each of the modules, really understand what they're all saying. That's the point. And and when you do your notes, I want you to be able to come up with, and be able to point to, on page 52 or whatever, Doniger says this about myth. And then, so that you can sort of use those resources, because you're going to actually, basically, you're going to practice these methods with each of the discussion posts. Now, you've looked at the discussion posts for, the ones that involve, the question, what is religion? That's the first question for the course. It's also the last question for the course. You're going to be looking at this question of what is religion from, when you begin this course, and also from when you end the course. So, but the discussion questions in the middle are built around certain general themes. So there's the question of religion and culture, and then there's religion and the human person, and then there's religion and power, or religion and society. And they are dealing with sort of these broad questions of, religious structure, but specifically approaching a particular thing. So if we're looking at, for the first discussion post, so what I've asked you to do, as you can see from, the assignment itself, that I want you to look at, sort of analyze through, the perspective of these three different thinkers, module 2, 3, and 4, so the Sacred Geography, Wendy Doniger, and Catherine Bell. Look at the Supreme Court of the United States. Not just the thing itself, but the building as well, okay? The whole construct of the Supreme Court and what it means in our society. So what would, how would, for example, the Sacred Geography people analyze, the Supreme Court building? And then, how would Wendy Doniger analyze the myth of the Supreme Court and what it means, and, the myth of, the myths and narratives that surround the Supreme Court, for example, the fact that there's blind justice, standing on a statue in front of the Supreme Court. Maybe analyze the myth of blind justice and what that means, and how Doniger might understand that myth in light of other things. And then look at, the rituals around the Supreme Court, potentially. And look, how would Catherine Bell kind of understand these? How would she analyze them? And what I'm looking for you to do is that normally I would have a discussion post be like a, like an actual sort of argument. You're writing a paper or what have you. But with, AI and many, many other issues, what I want instead is I'm going to need you to build from 10 specific citations from both the reader and the textbook. So you actually have to read these. You actually have to know, specifically what is said at specific moments. Build an argument, again, using half from the reader, half from the text, that says how you think, what pieces these thinkers would use to build their understanding of, or their analysis of the Supreme Court. So, and once you've done that with those three, then, in the middle three, we're going to look at, for modules 6, 7, and 8, we're going to do the same thing. And then module 9 is a discussion post where you have, 10 citations for each of the modules assigned. So 10 for module 6, 10 for module 7, 10 for module 8, 5 from the reader, 5 from the text. Citations, like bullet points, where you actually say, this is, this argument piece, and you write like a sentence or two, saying what that piece of that argument is and what that means, what the citation does, and then you build your argument around it. Okay, so you're kind of giving the skeleton and the structure of how you build your argument, and then you just, and then you would lay that out. Okay, Once you practice that 10 separate times over the 3 discussion posts, the idea is that you have some practice with these questions and how to use them as analytical tools for analyzing religion in and of itself. That's the final presentation. So what I'm looking for is a 15-minute presentation. Try to hit around 14 to 15 minutes. I'm really, 12 is okay, but 15 that's really going to get you a much stronger grade because I'm looking for something involves more depth. Okay, and what I'm looking for that is I want you to choose any one of the or basically anything in the world that you want to analyze. It could be a specific place. It could be if you want to go boring and deal with the Statue of Liberty, or the Christ the Redeemer, and with the hands upraised in Rio in Brazil. You can look at specific books. You can look at movies. You can look at any number of different things. One example I've used before is sort of maybe analyzing the. You cannot use this example, unfortunately, but something along the lines of for womanism, for example, you could use the frame of womanism to look at the work of Beyonce, for example, and the ways that she plays with embodiment and power or what have you. So choose something, whatever it is, and then choose one of the 10 analytical frameworks from the class and analyze it. So basically apply that analytical framework to the thing that you're looking to analyze. And I'm looking for something scholarly here, where you actually do some research. I'm expecting scholarly sources. I'm expecting you to, note articles and books and journals that can, help build the argument you're looking to make. Now, not every citation obviously has to be, scholarly. If you're, for example, looking at Beyonce, then of course, her lyrics and what have you, albums would be another source. But you need at least to have that scholarly basis, which is why I have those requirements for at least four scholarly sources for this presentation. Okay, and more will be explained in time, but you need to know and take account of the fact that at least a good quarter to a half of the grade of the presentation is going to be your preparation for the presentation. Now, that's going to be our second meeting. Now, I'm allowing you to watch this video in lieu of the second meeting, and the first meeting. And by the way, the answer to one of the quiz questions is mixed berry pie. That is the answer to one of the quiz questions. Is my favorite is mixed berry pie. Okay. So what I'm looking for you to sort of do with this is approach it more as an opportunity to actually kind of explain something that you are very interested in yourself, deeply interested in, and can sort of show that interest, let it kind of guide your research, because by the time we meet again, our second meeting, which is required, and which I have times already posted for the last 2 weeks of the semester, so that would be the 2 weeks of December. I have times, I have 72 spots like I had for the first time, 72 spots available. The last 2 weeks of December, you absolutely must meet with me. This is mandatory. There's no way around it, and you will not do well in your presentation, your individual final presentation, if you do not meet with me, because this meeting will be, you'll be presenting your ideas and your preparation for the presentation. So I'm looking for you to, by the time we meet in a few weeks, again, this is only in like 2 weeks from now, I'm expecting that you have not only an idea what you want to analyze, but how you want to analyze it, and that you have a sense of the sources you're going to use, a scholarly approach you're going to take, the direction you want it to go, and you have to present this to me at our meeting. It's going to be a half an hour. It's much more about, do you have a sense of where you're going? Have you already prepared ideas? are you coming ready to explain something that you kind of already worked on, and that I can help and shift and adapt, but that will not specifically be something that I give you an answer for, give you an idea for. That's why you met with me beforehand, and that's why you can email me in the meantime. Okay. By the way, the answer for the second question in our quiz is a red Kia Soul. A red Kia Soul. So, with this this second meeting, what that's going to be sort of a good half of the presentation grade, because it's going to be akin to if you put together an outline or drafts for a paper or something and then submitted it to submitted it to a professor and had them graded, okay, and look it over and what have you. So we're doing this orally. You're going to present it to me, your ideas. So you got to present your argument, and it has to be solid, and it has to sort of make some sense. So again, that's going to be our second meeting. You absolutely are required to meet with me. It's going to be a significant portion of your grade that is off if you do not. And I would start looking at those schedules. Again, those meetings will be held the first and second weeks of December, before the final papers are all due and all that. So that is this first recording of what I usually cover in the first meeting. Beyond that, what I would have done if we'd had a chance to meet was we could have a chance to talk about if any ideas you have, any questions you may have had about the course, specifically about your grade, what have you. An opportunity, to actually get to meet me and sort of see me in person and answer those questions. Unfortunately, you didn't get a chance to do that for any number of different reasons. So now, make a point of going and actually taking the 2-question quiz, which will be your sort of proof of that you actually listened to this video and that you have a sense of where we're going. I did this video again because I want you to, give me, what I'm looking for, but more importantly, I want you to be able to sort of, learn about this question of, and understand this question of, the expansiveness of religion and what it really means, as opposed to just, religious denominations. Because in a way, there's really no better way of understanding what's going on right now, particularly with the rise in authoritarianism and in Christian nationalism, than sort of viewing some of this through the lens of religion. Okay? For example, if you look at that through that lens, then it makes very clear sense why Christian nationalism is religious, because of the nationalism and the patriotism, and not because of the Christianity. Okay? So what I'm trying to give you is tools to actually analyze the world around you. That's the intent of the course. And if you have any questions, please reach out. I am, caught up with where I need to be once I've, uploaded this video and the other videos. And I will be able to get back to everyone, much quicker. Again, I apologize that everything just sort of fell apart this last week, with everything with me and this course. But all of the videos, except for 2 of them, are posted. They'll be posted after Thanksgiving. All the notes are up, and you should have every resource you need for the rest of the course. I am looking forward to meeting more of y'all as the semester goes on, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Thanks.